Hey folks, MasakoX here. I would like to point you all to my newly refreshed Patreon at patreon.com/MasakoX, just to make sure the channel can keep on chugging along. Thank you very much for your time, and let's get on to the story. Although unexpected, this energy surge was nothing to be worried about. At least, that's what Dr. Gero kept telling himself. Years of meticulous preparation surely were worth more than this annoying rabble of alien filth that they could muster in a short term. His intellect was the ultimate weapon, something that none of those simpletons could ever fully grasp. And in a way, he was humanity's last hope. Despite them shunning him, despite throwing away the gift of order and prosperity offered by the army, he still cared. Sure, he would publicly show his strength from time to time, and yes, there might be some collateral damage along the way, perhaps even them meeting their demises. But what would that matter in the midst of a glorious future that awaited humankind? Once he got rid of those damn Saiyans, the Demon King spawn, and everything in between, he would make sure that Earth prospered under his benevolent rule. This was the kind of person Dr. Gero was. This is what he considered himself to be. An innovator, a savior, a visionary. But he and 19 had to check out that sudden power surge, and to their surprise, it was a familiar face. It was Piccolo. I see you have not understood a single lesson that was previously afforded to you, my green friend. Gero spoke cordially, as he had a feeling that this entity was actually waiting for the two of them. I don't think you're grasping your current situation, Doctor, the Namekian responded. There was something different about him, calmer. He was neither angry or afraid, something that should have been present considering the fall of his comrade and the display of strength that 19 had presented just a while ago. Had his mind finally broken? Who knew, right? This probably ran in the family, considering that Dr. Gero did not really consider the original King Piccolo to be an entity of the soundest mind, unlike himself, of course. He smiled under his bushy moustache and nodded at his rotund companion. Well, 19. It seems that we need to repeat the lesson that we have already given, wouldn't you think?
Affirmative, Doctor.
His creation nodded in a cold, almost surgical manner, focusing his sight on the target. After that, it charged toward the enemy, who dodged the attack and responded with a rolling kick that connected with the android's head. The attack had actually left its mark, a dent on its cheek, much to Gero's disbelief. 19, status report! What is going on? The scientist yelled at his minion.
Upper plating penetrated, attempting to recover energy.
The android attempted to grab Piccolo's arm, but the dexterous Namekian appeared behind his back and managed to fit in a good few hits and kicks with a power that was previously unforeseen. The speed was hard to describe, as it confused Gero's own motion sensors within his eyeballs. How? How did he get so strong in such a short period of time? That would make him more powerful than... I'll finish what Goku couldn't, Piccolo then said coldly, and launched 19 into the air with a powerful uppercut. The android, however, did manage to get within maintenance mode and regained some semblance of control. It then went to attack its target, but the Namekian was ready for it, blocking the strikes and being even more ready for what was to come afterwards. Also, he was very wary of 19's power draining capabilities, something that could be the key to 19's victory if it managed to utilize it against his enemy, but he couldn't. Gero was watching all of this in horror. Despite realistically being a brain in a jar, he felt a cold shiver. This wasn't over, of course, but he had to think. He still had a whole arsenal of ideas, but he couldn't lose 19. Not yet, anyway. As his creation attempted to gain some distance with a flurry of energy attacks, Piccolo managed to deflect all of them, as if they were merely tickling him. You're next, by the way. You'll pay for what you did to all the civilians in Ten Shinhan, Piccolo then stated, defiantly but yet assuredly, looking at Gero as he said it, who was losing his mind a little bit behind the scenes. This cannot be happening, he thought. He could order 19 to go into overdrive mode, overclocking, but he would risk losing him within the fight, which was not ideal, suboptimal you would say. Still, the clown-like fighter didn't want to give up himself, as he managed to finally catch up to Piccolo and grabbed his forearm in an attempt to drain his energy. To his shock, the Namekian stretched said arm like a whip and managed to lash it toward the ground a few times, because in this universe, Piccolo remembers he can do that, with the android being an unwilling passenger. When it happened, the power drain had been interrupted quite a few times, but the robot wasn't planning on letting go. Quite the opposite. While he was being battered and dented by the impacts, he reinforced his grasp even more, possibly to attempt to catch Piccolo off guard. And yet, the enemy was prepared for that, as he shortened his limb to close in the distance, and he caught the android's draining arm with his own free hand, and started to pull. Gero's eyes widened as he heard a very loud dislodging sound. If 19 could have felt pain, he would have been screaming right now. Instead, he was merely trying to calculate some evasive maneuvers. Unsuccessfully, as the Namekian kept pulling, and soon the android's arm was not only dislodged from its socket, but fully torn off his body. And after another moment, he was being clubbed by his own chubby limb. Very undignified, you might say. The next hit from Piccolo visibly cracked something within 19's chest. Gero knew what that meant. That could result in a power leakage. He had to make his minions stop fighting right now, but how? Well, there were some procedures. 19! Evasive action Gero Delta 3! He yelled. As the android attempted to increase the distance between himself and Piccolo, the demon was continuing to follow him. This prompted Gero to go for a very desperate move. Activate code 232 Omega! The flew towards the fighters, as the torn-on arm that the Namekian was still holding exploded, blinding him in an instant. This gave Gero a fleeting moment to grab the chubby android, who was at this point starting to look like a little bit of a cracked egg, and caused his body to go into overdrive in order to decrease the distance, and then went low. If his intel was correct, they would not be able to sense its energy so close to the ground. He couldn't return to his main lab now. Surely they would have been able to locate him if he did. It would be the first place they would look. It's a good thing that he had several temporary hideouts scattered around that he was able to use. The war wasn't over. They simply needed to regroup based on what Piccolo was able to show them. 19 could be repaired. He could be upgraded. But if his enemies could adapt, then he would have to as well.
Forgive me, Doctor. I have failed.
The clown said. If Gero didn't know any better, he would even assume that there was even a hint of sadness within his voice. Nonsense, the scientist shook his head. Did you manage to at least grab some energy from him? And, most importantly, how is the integrity of your core? He asked calmly. All things considered, they were still functioning and operational. Hopefully, Piccolo would not find them anytime soon.
Affirmative. I do have some samples collected. Core integrity, 85.5%.
19 started with his normal emotionless tone. Then we can analyze it and make you stronger. See? Your super upgrade wasn't ready yet, because I didn't think we were ever going to have to need it. But it seems that we are going to have to need it, and give it a valuable test drive, Gero explained. You did satisfactorily today, 19. Science is made by trial and error. We have now found the limits of your adaptive power, but Piccolo has unwittingly given us something that could easily improve upon that. This is good. You can be patient. We have time on our hands, the scientist smirked. Yes, his intellect is going to be the thing that will cause him to triumph over those barbaric, punchy fools. Those savages never learned and relied mostly on their brawn. That, Gero thought, was their main weakness, their undoing. This was a lesson, not a failure. Next time, Piccolo was not going to be so lucky. Maybe the study of this particular energy would allow Gero to figure out how he got so strong in such a short space of time. As he crawled to one of the abandoned Red Ribbon Army bunkers that he knew about, he took one last look at the daylight. Once more, he retreated into the darkness. Piccolo was disappointed with himself. He had them, and he should have gone straight for Gero from the outset. Nobody could say what this insane nutcase was up to now. The power that he now wielded was incredible, but he was sure that the scientist would not waste any time to find some workarounds to be able to counter. He decided to fly back to Kame House to rendezvous with everyone else. As it turned out, Vegeta was regaining his health. Sadly, Goku's status was not quite as certain. He brought them up to speed with what had occurred, with Krillin showing some enthusiasm about their situation, which was rather odd.
Ah, so you're stronger than the androids. Neat. That means, whew, crisis averted there, buddy.
Not necessarily. Gero managed to escape and he's a tricky one. I suspect he might be taking notes after today's encounter.
Piccolo shaking his head as he said it.
Oh, so you failed to get him then, Namekian? So, was the loss of the Dragon Balls truly worth it?
Vegeta tilted his head, looking at him in a mocking fashion, liking some sense of victory at the moment.
I don't see you contributing much, Vegeta. Piccolo shrugged, quietly. But if you want, there's an option for us all to become stronger.
Huh? There is? Tell us, Mr. Piccolo.
Gohan got involved in the conversation, as both he and Trunks had shown interest in where exactly it was going.
Having Kami's memories now, I'm now aware of something called the hyperbolic time chamber.
Piccolo looked around, trying to make sure that what he was saying was true, to scout their reactions as well.
What a ridiculous name. What is this supposed to mean then? Vegeta then grimaced. It's a training room in the lookout. Time moves differently inside of it. 1 day here is equal to 1 year spent there. We can have a year's worth of training in a day and be ahead of whatever Gero's preparing. That way, science can never rule out.
The Namekian nodded slowly.
There's one caveat though. Only 2 people at a time. One person's risky, as the place isn't, very good for the sanity of loners. But it works better in pairs. Alright, I'm going in with the boy, Vegeta scoffed and looked at Trunks. Maybe now you'll be able to show that you are not a complete disgrace of the bloodline. Oh, you know already? Piccolo shrugged. Alright, you two may go in first. And by any chance Goku's not in shape, I'll go in with Gohan.
Well, I can go in with you if you want, Piccolo.
Krillin waved. There was a moment of silence.
Just a proposition.
The monk felt that he wasn't really being taken seriously.
Sure, said Piccolo, after a while. Alright, Trunks, Vegeta, follow me to the lookout. I think we've given ourselves a little bit of time, kept Gero busy and whatnot. He needs to repair the clown. It's interesting, actually, that he was rather insistent on saving him, even at the cost of getting damaged.
You never know, it might be a secret weapon, Trunks noted. If this one's purely mechanical, it can make things that the brain in the jar couldn't do. Maybe we can find out, Bulma said. I'm really sure I can find out where his lab is.
That sounds like a good idea, Piccolo nodded. Thanks, Bulma.
No worries. We are finding a scientist, remember? And you got one amongst your ranks. I can't let you brawlers have all the fun. You need a genius to find a genius, she smiled.
And who said I was just kidding.
Yamcha regretted throwing jokes around in such a situation. This gave everyone a moment of levity. Well, everyone except Chaozu. Noting that, Krillin approached the tiny warrior.
Hey, don't worry, buddy. We'll get your buddy back.
He patted him on the shoulder, really trying to make sure that Chaozu was involved in the optimism.
How? You don't make Dragon Balls anymore.
Well, I'm pretty sure that Goku can use his instant transmission. Once he wakes up, he can maybe go to New Namek. Remember that?
Krillin smiled, him very much aware of the Namekians at this time.
Oh, right.
Chaozu looked toward the stairs, knowing that Goku was slowly recovering.
I hope he's okay soon.
Me too, buddy. Me too.
Krillin sighed. In a little bit of a role reversal, 19th disembodied head was watching Dr. Gero as he was welding his body together. Funny, not that long ago it was himself who was carrying out a similar operation on his master. At the same time, he felt a stream of data entering his mind through cords that had been connected to his mainframe casing.
Doctor, am I correct to assume that this upgrade was originally meant for a different model?
There was a very pregnant pause, after which Gero turned his sight toward his creation. He did not expect this level of curiosity from the clown.
Yes, You are perceptive. That is true. I had more ideas, but you have been doing rather satisfactory. And you have earned your upgrade. The scientist nodded reassuringly.
Thank you, Doctor.
19 looked at his body again. The damage should have been much smaller than it actually was. He should have been able to adapt better. He would not fail next time.
You will be happy to know that I have figured out exactly what the issue was with Piccolo. You see, he has been infused with some new type of power that we were previously not made aware of, that we previously hadn't sampled. Readjusting your absorption mechanisms will be trivial, but I am using this opportunity to grant you the super upgrade.
He kept going on. It was funny. Gero always considered their conversations to be more like monologues, considering that 19 did not have a lot of free will. Or so it seemed. Maybe he actually had developed something akin to a personality.
I am changing. There are new thoughts in my system. New ideas on how to fight.
All parts of the learning process, my dear 19. As I said before, we can iterate. You are technically 19B right now. And I am sure that once the upgrade is done, you will be able to take your revenge out on that blasted Piccolo.
Revenge sounds satisfactory,
the head stated, looking blankly into the distance. Gero had to admit, this sounded a little bit eerie, but nevertheless, investing in 19's combat capabilities was his insurance policy. A lot of those functions could be later integrated into his own body, and if something went wrong, he had other ways of claiming them for himself. But the intelligence of his minion was also something that had to be improved. His loyalty was unwavering, absolute, so this wouldn't be any risk. He had many failed attempts in the past, but in the end, 19 had proven to be the pinnacle of his creations. Now, the only thing he had to do with him was to reintegrate some ideas that he considered to be too extensive. As it turned out, his enemies had more of an edge over him than he thought that he gave them credit for. But he was Dr. Gero, the maker of the ultimate life forms, and soon enough, the savior of the entire planet Earth. And that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now.